Welcome back. For many months, we have been highlighting, discussing and blowing the whistle on what exactly Pakistan might be up to in an area that is of preeminent importance to us. The part that belongs to us, Gilgit-Baltistan and POK. There is an ever-present risk that the Pakistanis will do now what they did in 1963, potentially cede over to China large tracts of Gilgit-Baltistan, which will complicate our efforts to reintegrate these areas back with India. The second scenario could be that they could create large-scale Chinese entities in these areas, very similar to what they have recently tried doing in Sar Creek in Gujarat, where just literally a few kilometers from disputed boundaries that Pakistan disputes, they have set up Chinese mega factories. There seems to be a cogent strategy behind this that has been unmasked with the building of the Chinese dams and of course of the CPEC projects that are currently happening. Chinese moves nearby in the Pamir mountain range in Tajikistan, their attempts at eyeing the Wakhan corridor that links up into Afghanistan also indicate that something like this might be afoot. Now a report suggests that the Pakistanis could be looking to create a special economic zone based out of these border areas of Gilgit-Baltistan to complicate the waters and to placate China. How do we deal with it? Let's open up this conversation. Joining us on the broadcast, I have Major General Dhruv Katoch, Rajiv Chunni, Chairman of SOS International. Sumit Peer is joining us, and Professor Madhav Nalapat. Professor Nalapat, this is a real and present risk and a clear, cogent Pakistani strategy now that to counter India, simply invite the Chinese in. We know that Chinese troops have been there in Gilgit-Baltistan for an extended period of time. They're building dams, they're building roads, they're building rail lines, and now potentially SEZs.
I'd like what I've been saying in the past also, and that is that any company of any country that invests in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir should be barred from the Indian market. Let's say you have a Chinese, telecom company or construction company or any other company of any country. Any investment in POK should be immediately subject to a ban by India of that particular company. Number one. Secondly, we have to take up the matter in relevant fora of this complete flouting of international norms by China. The reality is, even as per UN regulations, the entirety of Jammu and Kashmir belongs to India. In fact, the so-called resolution that Pakistan is talking about, the first item on the resolution was Pakistan troops will need to withdraw from the whole of Kashmir, including POK, before any discussion of plebiscite can take place. They have not done that. So the reality is, this is plainly illegal activity by Pakistan and by China. I think it's time for us to shed our, if I may say so, our very soft approach towards this and come down hard on the companies and come down hard on the countries that are illegally trespassing on Indian territory, even as per the famous resolution that are being talked about by Pakistan.
Okay, clarity is required. No, absolute clarity is required. If you tried this, Sumit Peer, in any other great country, they would shut you down so fast. They would ensure that you could not operate in Indian contracts. We would be lobbying with other firms. We would be publishing blacklists. We would be ensuring that financial transactions of these companies can't operate through any Indian shore. This would what would be happening right now. Now, what is happening in this SEZ? They want to create infrastructure capacity by doing strip mining. They want to exploit the mineral resources of an untouched Gilgit-Baltistan and use it to build the roads, the corridors, or to supply raw material to China. We now need to take a very cogent and public position. If you try this, every single company involved in this SEZ will be blackballed and blacklisted in India. फिर देखेंगे.
I think Rishabh, I'll start from where Professor Nalapat ended. He made a very important and a pertinent point.
We know this is all done on the behest of China. What can be our answer? Why don't we really look at our one China policy? Why don't we declare, why don't we start a SEZ in Dharamshala, cultural, social and economic SEZ? Why don't we put Dharamshala on the religious tourist map of India? Why don't we give visa on arrival to any Tibetan who wants to visit Dharamshala? We have to increase the security of His Holiness. Why don't we start an economic zone where any Tibetan can start business in around Dharamshala, and for 15 years there will be a tax holiday? I mean, these are the few things which we can immediately do to respond to that. I'm starting from where Professor Nalapat left after banning them and all that. We have to reciprocate in equal or bigger terms. And why don't we let these Tibetans have office in Delhi, run a government in exile, and give political asylums to the people of Tibet who want to come to India? We have to reciprocate in much bigger terms. Rather, one is doing the ban and all, second is making all hue and noise, but what are we doing as an action? There's 6-7 things if we do, we'll send a very, very strong message to the world. India means business. Because the time has come, we have to punch to our size. If we only keep on talking, it's not going to help, Rishabh.
General Dhruv Kato, just a few months ago, 10 kilometers from the Sir Creek boundary in Gujarat, the Pakistanis decided that they are going to set up a similar kind of SEZ for a Chinese company which was worth 55 hectares. They are doing this as a cogent strategy. What do we do when they attempt the same thing in Gilgit-Baltistan as they are now?
Oh, I think, Rishabh, I think the steps which have been earlier enumerated both by Professor Madhav Nalpat and by Mr. Sumit Peet, I think they are very, very cogent steps. And these are the first steps which we need to take. But they cannot be the only steps, because ultimately, let us understand, where is this policy being driven by? It is being driven by two hostile powers, and Pakistan is really acting as a proxy of China. So we have got to deal with both these actors in a very specific and coordinated manner. Now, I will come to first dealing with Pakistan. For a very long time, as you are aware, Pakistan has been the state sponsor of terror, and India has been trying to tell the world to declare Pakistan as a terror state. Now, I don't think we should need to worry about the world per se. I think India can take that step unilaterally on its own.
Yeah.
And once you declare Pakistan as a terror state, we will ensure that we seize all forms of trade, all forms of social interaction with the terror state, and make it publicize the policy that any actions by Pakistan in trying to promote further terror activities against India will be treated as an
No,
act
but
of
why
war.
can't we do? I know our heft is not the same, sir, and our economic heft is not the same, and I grant that. But what the Americans do with the Koreans and the Iranians, if a single American company trades with an Iranian company, they are immediately blacklisted. An American bank can't have branches in Iran. Why can't we do the same thing, that if you want a banking license here in India and you're operating banks in Pakistan, which is a known terror funding transit route, you can't get that banking license here in India. There has to be a cost and consequence analysis.
Absolutely. I think that, as Professor Nalpat has already covered that, I didn't really mention it, but that cost analysis has to come through. And the question is, India has to be proactive now and state our policy that this is what we will do. So let us advertise it, let us inform the world, this is our position now, you choose sides now. Would you want to go with the terror state or you want to go with India? And whether it is banking licenses or any other licenses, or the export of material or the import of materials, I think everything should come under this
I
ban.
spent a lot of time a couple of months ago examining what exactly the Chinese have done in Tibet with the open strip mining that is going on of materials, gold mining, lithium mining that is happening in Tibet. Rajiv Chunni, Tibetan plateau, which is the home of all the great Asian rivers, Brahmaputra, the 5 rivers of the Punjab, the Yellow River, the Mekong River, Yangtze, all come from the Tibetan plateau, is now being wrecked apart by the Chinese. While they are building dams, they're doing open strip mining, they're doing roadway construction to do the open strip mining. They now want to do the same thing in Gilgit-Baltistan. How do we stop them?
धन्यवाद ऋषभ गुलाटी जी। मैं बिल्कुल सहमत हूं प्रोफेसर नालापत जी की बातों से, और एक बात पक्की है कि जो रेजोल्यूशन हमने 1994 में लाया था भारत की संसद के अंदर कि वो इलाका हमारा है और उसको खाली कराएंगे, मुझे लगता है कि वो एक पब्लिक कंजम्पशन के लिए थे। प्रैक्टिकल तौर पर जो हमें करना चाहिए वो दिखता नहीं, क्योंकि मैं आपको बता दूं ये इलाका भौगोलिक स्थिति जो इसकी है इतना रणनीतिक हमारे लिए है कि 4 देशों का संगम होता है वहां पर, अफगानिस्तान, पाकिस्तान, चाइना और हिंदुस्तान। ये चारों देश उसके मुहाने पर आकर मिलते हैं और वो छोटा इलाका नहीं है, 2800 माइल्स का इलाका है, लगभग 73,000 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर। तो मैं समझता हूं कि इस तरीके से उसका शोषण हो रहा है, उसका दोहन हो रहा है, जिस तरीके से वहां पर ये सारे लोग, ये जितने प्लेयर्स जिनका हम नाम ले रहे हैं, चाहे चाइना हो, पाकिस्तान हो, ये बिल्कुल एक तरह से ट्रेसपासर्स हैं उस इलाके के अंदर। इनका कोई वहां पर लीगल स्टैंडिंग नहीं है वहां पर, उसके बावजूद ये लोग वहां अपना काम कर रहे हैं। तो मैं समझता हूं कि हमारी रणनीति में, हमारे कहीं ना कहीं हमारे काम करने के तरीके में कहीं कोई खोट है।
नहीं, क्या उसका हल क्या निकालें राजीव जी? उसका हल क्या निकालें? अगर सीपेक बना रहे हैं, साथ में अब एसईजेड बना रहे हैं, एसईजेड बनानी एक बार मिनरल माइनिंग वहां शुरू कर दी, विच मींस कि गिलगित बाल्टिस्तान, नीलम वैली जैसी जगहों को सारा खोदना शुरू कर देंगे ये लोग। इनको रोका कैसे जाए?
इसका हल मैं आपको बता रहा हूं कि मेरे बाल्टिस्तान के लोग, गिलगित के लोग हिमाचल में रहते हैं, जम्मू कश्मीर में रहते हैं, दिल्ली में रहते हैं, वो इस बात के लिए तैयार हैं और हमने एक पेटिशन भी बनाई है। लेकिन हम सोच रहे हैं हम आगे कहां जाएं। हमारा सहयोग भारत सरकार करे, अगर वो खुद आगे नहीं आना चाहते, हमें वो इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस में भेजे, हमें वो यूनाइटेड नेशन के फोरम पर भेजे, हम रुकवाएंगे इसको, हम रुकवा सकते हैं क्योंकि हम स्टेक होल्डर्स। तो मैं समझता हूं कि हमें खाली ये कहने की जरूरत नहीं है, प्रैक्टिकल तौर पर कुछ करने की जरूरत है।
Bang on.
और सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि इतना स्ट्रेटेजिक ये इलाका है और 4 देश हमारे सामने आकर खड़े हो गए। अगर ये आप इमेजिन करें ये इलाका हमारे पास होता तो पाकिस्तान और चाइना कभी अपने साथ एक दूसरे के साथ ना आ पाते, कभी अफगानिस्तान उनके साथ जुड़कर ना आ सकता। ये उस इलाके के जाने की वजह से ये सारे लोग आज इकट्ठे होकर हमें घेर रहे हैं। तो मैं समझता हूं कि जैसे प्रोफेसर नालापत साहब ने कहा कि जो आदमी भी वहां इन्वेस्टमेंट करेगा उसको तो पहले भारत इस बात का सबक दे दे कि तेरे लिए यहां कोई जगह नहीं। ये बहुत बड़ी बात है, तब लगेगा कि हम वाकई ईमानदारी के साथ इस पर काम कर रहे हैं। लेकिन अगर आप पब्लिक कंजम्पशन के लिए कर रहे हैं तो मैं समझता हूं कि ये रुकने वाला नहीं है, हम इसको रोक सकते हैं, कोई बहुत बड़ी बात नहीं है। स्टेक होल्डर्स को आगे लाइए, इस फोरम पर दुनिया भर के देशों के सामने अगर खड़ा करना चाहते हैं, मेरे लोग तैयार हैं। लेकिन उनके अपने सामर्थ्य नहीं है, तो वो इतने सक्षम नहीं है कि वो इतने बड़े देशों के साथ लड़ सके।
What Harish Salve has taught us is that you just need to argue well at the ICJ. It might not change the world, but at least it brings something to highlight, and things can happen. General Katoch, how do we then empower, as Rajiv Chunni has said, the people who are from there? For us, they're internally displaced persons. In effect, they're refugees. How do we empower them to be parties to this fight? They want to. Sir, just unmute yourself, please. Yes.
Yeah. I think as a first step, let us give them the adequate representation in our assemblies, both in Jammu Kashmir and in Ladakh. Now, there is a constitutional provision, and also represent them in India's parliament. So now we have a group of people who are represented in India's parliament, and they who belong to Gilgit-Baltistan and to Mirpur Muzaffarabad. Let us take the entire area of what has been occupied by Pakistan in its entirety. Now, this is one element of political reservation which is mandated by the Constitution of India. Those seats are already kept reserved, but they are not being filled. I think as a first step, let us start filling these seats and then taking their voice and of people like Mr. Chunni right down to the United Nations and let them fight their case there. I think it is very important because it is a very unfortunate fact of history that these 2 million odd people of Gilgit-Baltistan, I think, have been the most oppressed in history till date. They are under a very hostile regime. They are being exploited by China. Their land resources have been taken away. Dams are being built which will cause a huge ecological disaster. whatever little bit of wealth they have.
I know there are technicalities because in the end,
they are moving everywhere.
General Katoch, there has to be a time where you have to have physical occupation of these areas. I'm hoping that time is coming rather soon. But until then, if you look at a map of India and the administrative map of India, these areas come under the Union Territory now of Ladakh, large areas of Gilgit-Baltistan. India has its national laws applicable. These include environmental laws. All such SEZ developments, dam developments will have to face environmental scrutiny had these areas been part of India. Therefore, they are illegal. What is stopping us from saying that they are illegal? Let the UT administration of Ladakh issue a proclamation that this is illegal construction and that empowers the central government to act against these companies.
Oh, I think that is absolutely valid and in order. And I have a feeling now that the UT will do it. This is a step which will be taken by the government of Ladakh. And I presume we will see action on this score.
Okay, so
it is vital to look after the interests of the people of Gilgit.
Sumit Peer, it is not easy, but it is not impossibly complicated to think in very practical ways. If this is under the governance of the UT of Ladakh, the UT of Ladakh should be saying that all projects here are violating of this Indian law, this Indian law, this Indian law. We haven't floated a tender. Therefore, any such project is illegal. Let that proclamation come out at least, no?
I think Rishabh, I have 4 or 5 points to make. The point number 1 is I agree with you, this we can do, and we should even seriously contemplate going to the ICJ. Because there is two, three more critical things which are very pertinent here. This is the question of water security of India, because the way China is building dams around the north of the India, where the water into the mainland India comes, that's a very important point. What happens to our water security in the long run? That's a point I want to make. Second point is that why can't we do one thing? Because this, you see, you have to balance the two. POK can be only balanced through Tibet. So one China policy is not sustainable.
Yeah.
So what, and POK and GB put together is our gateway to South Asia, what we traditionally used to call Persia. China is trying to block our further influence into Persia. We should also see it like this. Because if they don't let us capture this area, get into this area, they're blocking our access to the Persia. So it's not only a question of POK and liberating people of POK, it's also our question of having an influence on Persia. We can have a 1% reservation for Tibetis across our universities. We can include Tibetis as a part of CAA. Any Tibeti who wants to come here, who has faced atrocities, has come and settle here. And last, but the important point is that, why can't we start a Hill Council in Ladakh, which specifically looks into this, our occupied area by Pakistan and China. And this Hill Council will have a mandate and then only responsibility to build up.
I've been having these conversations since January of last year. Okay. Every person we speak to agrees with this. That is the but obvious exercise of sovereign authority. If this is our territory, then our sovereign authority, Indian laws are applicable. Therefore, these areas come under Indian courts, the High Court in Srinagar and the Supreme Court of India. Residents of Gilgit-Baltistan should be allowed to approach the Indian courts for justice, for rulings. Pakistanis and crimes that are being committed against them we should be able to try them under special provisions in absentia. The seats should be filled and administrators for all these areas should be appointed. This is a but obvious thing. Professor Nalapat, the exercise of sovereign authority, it might seem tokenism, but it isn't that. It is a very solid legal structure to build a case, which perhaps the time has come for eventually the physical reintegration.
Well, I'd like to say that I fully share the concern of the gentleman from POK who's on the channel. And I think it's very important for him and for others to have their voices heard in different fora. And they should be, it should be made possible through citizens of India for them to do so. The second point is, Rishabh, we should use the international police regulations to file criminal complaints against those individuals who are despoiling the environment and who are committing illegal activities, including illegal investment. And there should be an international police warrant issued across the board for all the executives of these companies. You have seen some companies, very top people have been caught and they are now in custody in different countries. And this is what is happening. I don't see any reason why we should not issue warrants against the people.
I can give you examples. The Japanese issued a warrant against a major car manufacturer head who
and demand that different countries should arrest them whenever they go traveling.
the Japanese arrested a major car manufacturer head and kept him in custody, and he literally had to escape in a box. A senior executive of Huawei is in Canadian custody right now, pending extradition to the United States. And to say that if now a company sets up an SEZ and starts strip mining in Gilgit-Baltistan, we can't under our sovereign laws issue a warrant, I think requires a little bit of now different thinking. That there are so many things that we can do. There are some things which have to be decided at a strategical and tactical level. Some of these things are now no-brainers. They are but obvious things to do. Maybe the time has come. Rajiv Chunni, I think I just lost him there, but this no-brainer, let's come back and have the conversation. I'll put together some lawyers to figure out what is it that can be done under applicable Indian law against Chinese activities in Gilgit-Baltistan. Whether these areas, if they come under the Indian constitution, are under the ambit of the Indian courts. If they are under the ambit of the Indian courts, all of you watching the broadcast out there can file public interest litigations. How many public interest litigations on environmental reasons are taken up in this country? So you can go to the Srinagar High Court, you can go to the Supreme Court of India and say this construction in Gilgit-Baltistan, which is sovereign Indian territory, is damaging to the interests of India, and I file a PIL. And then the reforms that need to be done in the Indian legislative setup, we can identify to deal with things like in absentia, passing judgments over territories not under physical possession of India, but under the Indian constitution. These now need to be examined in a larger context.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.